we're going to open the floor to public comment. On the agenda today is Charles Anderson from Zoc Center. You want to come up to the microphone, please?
Hi, my name is Charles Anderson. I was the applicant for Candota Landing at the most recent meeting for a conditional use permit, which would allow 6 RV sites. And the location was now the old railroad right away across from Cedar Lake. Site only really has very, very limited use because of the width and some safety features of the whole width along there is sloped so that it was never used for a trail for snowmobiles or anything like that. And it's really too steep. It ends up into a wetland before it goes up to Highway 71. So the only practical access would be from the U Road or the Bargain Barn Road, I guess, 150th Street up there. I just want to clarify just one comment. This is going to be brief. During the meeting, I was asked if, one of the commissioners asked if it would be a deal killer if I had to install the holding tank, which costs $10,400, prior to the first RV being placed on site. And I said yes, but I should have elaborated, and I did not. So the elaboration I would have made is that I'm not opposed to putting in the holding tank. What I was opposed to is before the first RV can go on site. As it stands now, without the conditional use permit, I'm able to put 3 into 2 parcels, 3 RVs. So what I should have said, I'd like the trigger to be when the CUP would kick in, which would be upon the 4th RV that would be put in. Otherwise, I've got what I've got now. And it's not a commercial campground. It's not anything like that. I just bought it. It's a family camp. I put a zip line up there and building an obstacle course and trying to keep my grandkids off video games. That's all I have to.
Okay. All right. We can't make any decisions, but we can listen.
No, I understand. That's all I wanted to do.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Tuesday, June 20th, 2023, Todd County Board of Commissioners regular board meeting. Today we have Commissioner Noska, Commissioner Denny, Commissioner Becker, and Commissioner Newman present, along with the County Auditor Treasurer. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And today we have the county coordinator is absent and on vacation. I hope she's enjoying herself, and the county attorney just joined us, so thank you. Thank you, John. All right. Is there any amendments to the agenda?
I have none, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Do we have a motion, please?
So move.
Motion by Becker. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Noska. Discussion. If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Thank you. All right. Potential consent items.
Today I have meeting minute approval for June 6th and June 13th for 2023. Gambling permit, Long Prairie Lions. Gambling permit, NWTF Strutton Blackbirds. Diamond Point, one-day dance license. Long Prairie Lions, one-day temporary on-sale liquor license. The hire of Kellen Pulliam, full-time deputy, start date to be determined. Hire of Lisa Bauer, full-time jailer, start date to be determined. And approved to hire payroll benefits specialist Amanda Blackstone, start date to be determined.
Okay, further requests, is there a motion, please?
So move.
Motion by Denny. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Becker. Discussion. If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay. Auditor Treasurer.
The first item I have today is to approve the commissioner warrants. Background is sent for your review. The recommendation is to approve the commissioner warrants with an ACH and a manual payment totaling the amount of $172,748.71.
Okay, further requests, is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion by Noska. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Denny. Discussion. If none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Noska,
Yes.
Commissioner Denny,
Yes.
Commissioner Becker,
Yes.
Commissioner Newman.
Yes.
The next item is the Health and Human Service Commissioner warrants. Background is sent for your review. Recommendation is to approve the Health and Human Service Commissioner warrants with an ACH and a manual payment totaling the amount of $469,357.25.
Okay, further request, is there a motion, please?
So move.
Motion by Denny. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Becker. Discussion. If none, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Denny,
Yes.
Commissioner Becker,
Yes.
Commissioner Noska,
Yes.
Commissioner Newman.
Yes.
The next item would be the Health and Human Service SSIS warrants. Background is sent for your review. Recommendation is to approve the Health and Human Service SSIS warrants with an ACH and a manual payment totaling the amount of $113,932.44.
Okay, you've heard the request. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion by Noska. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Denny. Discussion. If none, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Noska,
Yes.
Commissioner Denny,
Yes.
Commissioner Becker,
Yes.
Commissioner Newman.
Yes.
The next item I have is establishing a bank account for the opioid settlement funds. Background is Todd County Board of Commissioners adopted by Resolution 2021-1221-19 for Todd County participants in the multi-state settlements relating to opioid distribution manufacturers and the Minnesota Opioid Subdivision Memorandum of Agreement. Per the terms of the MOA, the opioid settlement fund shall be commingled with any other shall not be commingled with any other money or funds of the participating local government. The first allotment of settlement funding arrived Q4 of 2022, and the opioid advisory committee has been building plans for the use of these funds. In order to be compliant with the MOA terms prior to funds being distributed for projects, the Auditor Treasurer's Office requests the county board's approval to establish a new checking account to receive and distribute the funds. Your options are to approve the establishment of this bank account or do not approve it, and the recommendation is to adopt the attached resolution to establish a bank checking account for the opioid settlement funds.
Okay. You've heard the request. Is there a motion?
So move.
Motion by Becker. There's a second.
Second.
Second by Nazca. So we're getting this for like, what, 18 years?
Exactly.
So once we
we're-
establish this will be a long-term
And the accounting requirements to keep it
separate.
not commingled is keeping it into a separate account, and that way we'll have the HHS director and myself as co-signers of the check account, so that
What do we get a year, per year down there? Do you recall? I'm just,
I can.
if
I
you don't
can
know,
look it
that's
up.
fine.
I don't know it off the top of my
I
head.
can ask outside of this, it's not a
Yeah.
big deal.
And it's ever changing too,
Me in about 30 seconds, I
Okay.
can tell you.
Mr. Chair. And Denise, it's every year is changing and the amounts are changing.
It is, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's not just, oh,
It's not a set amount, and then it also, there's other lawsuits that keep rolling in on
Oh,
these.
gotcha.
The Walgreens, the CVS's, everybody that's jumping in on it.
Yeah.
Okay. Any further discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Carried. Thank you.
Next item I have then is to approve July 21st as the public sale of tax forfeited property. Background: land that has been forfeited to the state of Minnesota for non-payment of property taxes, the county board has to set the date and time of the sale. The recommendation is to approve the 2023 forfeited land sale to be held in the county boardroom at the historic courthouse on July 21st, 2023 at 10 a.m. And that's just a public auction that I run up here. The board doesn't need to be present, so I just conduct it here. We sell forfeited properties.
Okay, heard the request. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion by Nazca. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Danny. Discussion.
Denise, how many parcels are there? Quite a few? I know-
This time around, no. I don't even know.
Didn't
off the
look
top
very
of my
large. I
head,
looked at
no.
the
Yeah.
spreadsheet there and it wasn't a ton.
3, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. One of the smaller ones. It's good.
Yeah, it's getting down there again.
Okay. Any other discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
The next item I have then would be a private sale on tax forfeited land, parcel 03-0021-201 and 29-0001-002 have forfeited to the state of Minnesota for non-payment of taxes. We're asking that our recommendation is to approve the attached resolution to do a private sale. These are items that can be pulled off, and I can go to the resolution. They're either an adjacent owner that has the right to buy it, or in the case of Bertha's would be that manufacturing place. The city had it, and then now they don't want to build a community center, so they want to put it back on the sale.
Back on tax roll.
So these are just situations, and it does fall within the state statutory guidelines that we can do this. So we're just asking for your approval.
Okay. All right, you've heard the request. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion by Denny. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Nazca. Discussion.
Mr. Chair, Denise, what's going on with the Bertha Manufacturing Company?
The city had required it from us
Right,
and they were going to either build a community center or a fire hall.
that's correct. Yeah.
But they no longer are planning to go that route, and so they're we'll have to go through the steps of pulling it back,
Okay,
and then we're selling it at a public auction. And there's like a family owner that was part of the original owners that lost it, that was not aware. So he can come back in and buy it now, and he's going to be doing a manufacturing company out of there.
Oh, okay.
Something like that is
Good.
the story that I
Nice to
heard.
see a
So
business
it
go in
will
there.
be
That'd be
going
great.
back out, instead of public auction, will be going to a private
It'll be a private sale.
sale. Okay.
That both, what's the other parcel, the 2.9?
That is just an adjacent owner, and I believe it's just a strip of land where,
Just a sliver, yep.
Just trying to get it
Yeah, I
to somebody so it actually gets used
Yeah.
and doesn't lay there forever.
there's the two parcels here, and I believe
Yep.
there's a
Yep,
map
just a
on it.
sliver.
Oh, yeah.
Try to straighten all that out.
Yeah, see this little tiny strip?
Yeah, nice to combine that with something so it's not sitting there and,
We have the Bertha one too, and maybe. Oh, that is not, I misspoke, that is not the Bertha mattress plant. This again also is just correcting lot lines
okay,
between the two property owners.
Mhm.
Okay.
So that is not the mattress one, but the mattress one is coming.
It's coming,
okay, that will be
okay.
coming, all right.
That one is coming back to manufacturing, I misspoke. We're dealing with a bunch of them right now just because the forfeited sale's coming up, and so everybody's jumping on, asking questions and getting information. So both of these are just clearing up lot lines,
Right,
and
yep.
adjacent owners can
Okay.
acquire, because it probably at one point in time was their land. And through plating and things like that, legal descriptions get dropped off.
Mhm.
Sounds good.
These are
For-
both just correcting of lot lines and little strips of land.
Yeah.
Yes, I did misspeak on the,
Gotcha.
so we're just asking to do those two private sales to those individuals.
All right. Any further discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
And just to go back to the opioid, we currently have a cash balance of $187,000 plus dollars in there already.
That's from 2022 when we start, wow, that's, well, hopefully we can utilize them well.
Yeah.
Make good things happen.
Exactly.
Thank you.
And the next item we have, if we move right along, I'm going to be the one presenting that one.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, and so this is a letter of support for Hilltop Square and Hilltop Square Auditorium and the Wellness Center. A little bit of background, a letter of support has been requested for a 23-unit affordable housing complex known as Hilltop Square and Hilltop Square Auditorium and Wellness Center in Eagle Bend. The proposed project will provide a much-needed housing option for seniors as well as provide a secure home environment with a variety of services to the senior population. Options: to approve the letter to support for Hilltop Square and Hilltop Square Auditorium and Wellness Center in Eagle Bend, or do not approve. The recommendation is to approve the letter of support for Hilltop Square and Hilltop Square Auditorium and Wellness Center in Eagle Bend. I believe there's a letter attached. That's going to the Central Minnesota Housing Partnership,
Mhm.
and Randy will sign that if you are in support of giving them your support.
Okay. You've heard the request. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
A motion by Noska. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Danny. Okay. Discussion?
Do we know if will they be asking for assistance, or do they have a grant or
That, I
something
believe
already?
this is what
Is
they're
it
going for, is for funding.
trying to get funding? Okay, just to have our
And they're just,
support
yeah,
for the,
our
for the
support
community?
that
Got
we
it.
support
Got
what
it.
they're trying to
Yep,
propose doing.
sounds good.
So I'll sign the letter of support and we'll see where it goes.
Where they go with
Yeah.
it, yep.
Yep.
Good.
Any other discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Ditch Inspector Nancy, good morning.
Good morning.
Just have one agenda item today, and it's to acknowledge receipt of County Ditch 19 hold harmless agreement for pivot crossings. Todd County Board of Commissioners approves the following by motion: acting as ditch authority, acknowledge receipt of a hold harmless agreement petition to install pivot crossings on parcel 2600-22800, Ward Township, Section 25.
Okay. Heard the request. Is there a motion?
So move.
Motion by Danny. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Noska. Discussion.
Mr. Chair, Nancy, what ditch are they crossing?
Ditch 19.
Okay, I'm trying to figure out where that location is. I kept on the map here.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
That help
there
you?
go.
I have the map up.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's south of, it's in section 25. If you know where Dale Catterhagen
Sure.
lives, he's just north of that 330th
okay,
Street. That's the road in front of his property,
okay,
so it's south.
yeah.
Right. Any other discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Nancy. Sheriff Allen.
Morning, Commissioner.
Morning.
Morning.
One board action I have this morning, we've lost 2 field training officers for other employment opportunities. And so I'm requesting to send 2 additional ones that are on staff to that field training, officer training in Iowa. There's none available in Minnesota for, typically it's once a year and they just had it. And so we need to get these 2 up there. So my request is be to approve the 2 to approve out-of-state travel for the 2 deputies for field training, officer training in Iowa in the month of August.
Okay, you've heard the request. Is there a motion?
So move.
Motion by Denny. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Nazca. Discussion.
Yes, Mr. Chair. What's the cost? There's no financial implication.
I'm not sure even what
It's
the cost is,
budgeted.
Commissioner, of the training.
Okay. I mean, is it a week or,
It's a week-long training,
It's a
yes.
week-long
It's a
training.
week-long. Typically, we've been sending them to Bemidji, but since they just had it there, we won't see it. We had an option between Iowa and Wisconsin, and Wisconsin was coming up very quickly for the summer months, and I don't have deputies to give for the summer months, so August would be the next opportunity for us in Iowa.
okay.
So, I think what Commissioner Becker's getting at, so if you find a price out, let us know.
I'll set it up, for sure.
Okay. All right. Any further discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Adam.
Good morning.
Morning.
Okay, my first item this morning is Kendota Landing Incorporated request for CUP. An application for conditional use was submitted on April 10th to establish a six-site commercial plan unit development on parcel 1700039701 Little Sauk Township. Application was reviewed by the Planning Commission during the June 1 public hearing, and the final recommendation from the Planning Commission was to deny the application based on the findings of fact identified below. The options are to grant the permit with conditions, 2, deny the application based on the findings of fact, or 3, remand it back to the Planning Commission. The recommendation, a motion to deny the application for a six-site commercial plan unit development on parcel 1700039701 based on the following findings of fact. 1, failure to adequately address sewage treatment standards, and 2, failure to address public safety based on proximity to Highway 71. And
Okay.
map, and stuff are up there too, if you're unsure where this is, right off of 71, just to the west of Cedar Lake.
Okay, I'm gonna ask for a motion.
I will put a motion in to send it back to the planning and have the conversation that we had this morning with the planning and zoning, and then bring it back.
I'll second that. And I think, yeah, that's one of those things, we maybe just have to have that conversation again at the planning commission to,
Yep.
dig a little deeper into what we can do. Maybe there's a fence that needs to be installed for safety reasons, so small kids can't get to 71, and, something where the CUP doesn't kick in until he does get over 3 units used to install that tank. So I don't know, you know, I'd be happy to be at that meeting again too, just to know what's going on there.
So my question is, of course, I got the box in the way of the, you know,
That's how you submitted it, right, Adam?
On the map?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because I wanted to be able to show the property information, size and stuff like that, but I suppose I blocked off some, but that is the whole property we're looking at there.
This blue line right here, Andy.
Yep.
because to show the location of the public access, that's gotta be some,
Oh, that's hidden. It's just to the north of that very north
That's-
property line, that right up in that general area where Denise's
right,
mouse
that's
is.
what I
there.
thought.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Chair, can I just add in one thing before, Chuck, would you be able to, send an email with an extension to the time to make the decision then just so that we don't run any decision deadlines if you're agreeable to that? Then we'll get this back to the planning commission and answer some of those questions. You can just email me, yep. Thank you.
Does that sound good to you, Adam, that we
That was-
remand it back? Is that?
That was going to be my recommendation based on Chuck's correspondence today. If you guys wanted to look at that again, I think that's the cleanest way to get it through the public hearing cycle and
Yes.
back in front of
Right.
the commissioners. So,
Yep.
as long as we're not running into any decision deadlines and Chuck's willing to work with the county on that, I think we're in good shape and we can get that taken care of.
All right. So we got a motion by Becker, second by Nazca, to send it back to the planning commission. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chuck. Thanks, Adam. Yep.
Okay, next, David E. Yoder requests for CUP, an application for conditional use to establish a commercial furniture business on parcel 1300-11300 in Iona Township. Was submitted on April 12th. The application was reviewed by the planning commission during the June 1 public hearing. The final recommendation from the planning commission was to grant the permit with the conditions listed below. Options are to grant the permit with the conditions, deny the application, or remand it back to the planning commission. Recommendation is to adopt the findings of the planning commission and grant the CUP on parcel 1300-11300 with the following conditions. 1, should be no loading or unloading of materials within the public roadway. 2, off-street parking shall be provided for all business traffic. 3, storage of supplies and finished products shall be stored meeting all setback requirements. 4, land use permits shall be required for all future construction. And 5, that the applicant must abide by all their applicable federal, state, and local standards.
Okay, you've heard the request. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion by Nazca. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Danny. Discussion. If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Okay, next, Haley Cruzel requests for CUP, an application to establish an in-home daycare on parcel 0600330000, Burnaville Township, submitted on April 26th. This application was reviewed by the planning commission during the June 1 meeting, and the final recommendation from the planning commission was to grant the permit with the conditions below. Options are to grant the permit with conditions, deny, or amend it back to the planning commission. The recommendation is to adopt the findings of the planning commission and grant the CUP on parcel 0600330000 with the following conditions. 1, the applicant must obtain additional licenses as required by the Minnesota Department of Health. And 2, the applicant must abide by all their applicable federal, state, and local standards.
Okay, you've heard the request. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion by Nazca. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Danny. Discussion.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Adam, will this be commercial property then if she's doing a daycare on it, or how are they doing it? I mean, as far as
It's in shoreline
sewer
zoning, but it would be a commercial activity. You can do that. You can do commercial things in other zones besides commercial. This is
correct.
allowed. But, we wouldn't be changing any zoning or anything in relation to that.
Okay.
So maybe your question's more of an assessor's question?
No,
with-
I was just
okay.
curious, to make sure that Health and Human Services has the knowledge that she's going to be doing a
Oh.
daycare in there, that we're not giving her the permission to do the daycare
Right.
we're giving her permission to do a square building, but the licenses and so forth have to come
Right,
from someone
and,
else.
Jackie's here, you guys,
Yeah.
that gets sourced out to Sourcewell, right? Yeah,
Sourcewell,
and so
yeah.
that's how I actually got connected with Haley, was Sourcewell reached
Through
out and
Sourcewell.
asked. So they were working with Sourcewell before they even came to us.
Okay,
Yep.
very good.
I'm just glad to see a permit coming through on
Yeah.
daycare,
Nice.
you know?
Yeah, we get questions on it every now and again, and about half of them end up following through.
So what's the cost for them to get this permit?
Just any other conditional use, it's $500 following our fee schedule. And there was a discussion we had maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago about amending the ordinance to make these in-home daycares a lot easier to make happen. And it's something we can certainly reconsider and look at too, to make it easier. Looking at a daycare facility may be another case, but these in-home daycares usually go through pretty well. There's a high demand for them, so it's something we could certainly consider to amend the ordinance to make them easier to get that permitting that's needed.
Okay, because I think I read somewhere, there's some counties that are waiving that permit application
Sure.
just to get daycares within their county.
And that's certainly something we could discuss too, is keep it through the same process, but waive the fee if
Or
that.
reduce it down, you know, not
Right.
have it as high, but
Sure.
reduce it down,
Right.
but entice people to get into the daycare.
I can certainly bring this back as a work session item for next month, and we can talk more about it.
Okay.
Then, okay, we'll do that.
All right. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Carried, thank you.
Okay, Daniel Schwarzentrooper request for CUP, an application for conditional use to establish a roof truss assembly business with retail sales on parcel 1700162000, Little Sauk Township, was submitted on May 3rd. This was reviewed by the Planning Commission during the June 1st meeting, and the recommendation from the Planning Commission was to grant the permit with the conditions below. Options are to grant the permit with conditions, deny the application, or remand it back to the Planning Commission. Recommendation is to adopt the findings of the Planning Commission and grant the CUP on parcel 1700162000 with the following conditions. There should be no loading or unloading materials within the public roadway. 2, off-street parking shall be provided for all business traffic. 3, storage of supplies and finished products shall be stored meeting all setback requirements. There should be no storage or disposal of waste products in adjacent wetland areas. 5, land use permits should be required for all future construction. And 6, that the applicant must abide by all their applicable federal, state, and local standards.
Okay, further requests or motion, please?
So moved.
By Nazca, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Danny. Discussion. If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Carried, thank you.
Okay. Andy Miller requests for CUP, an application for conditional use to establish a commercial workshop and wood processing business on parcel 2800200301, Wycombe Township, was submitted on May 4th. This was reviewed by the Planning Commission during the June 1 meeting. The final recommendation from the Planning Commission was to grant the permit with the conditions below. Options are to grant the permit with the conditions, deny, or remand it back to the Planning Commission. Recommendation is to adopt the findings of the Planning Commission and grant the CUP on parcel 280020, I got an extra 2 in there, 20301, with the following conditions. 1, should be no loading or unloading of materials within the public roadway. Off-street parking shall be provided for all business traffic. Storage of supplies and finished products shall be stored meeting all setback requirements. 4, all truck traffic must abide by load weight limits and seasonal road restrictions. 5, land use permits shall be required for all future construction. And 6, the applicant must abide by all their applicable federal, state, and local standards.
Okay, further requests, is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion by Danny, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Nazca. Discussion. Well, I'm glad to see all these people are starting new businesses.
We've been busy the last couple months with the Planning Commission.
Yeah. Any further discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Carried, thank you.
All right, getting closer. The Dietrich Acres preliminary plat, an application to establish one lot preliminary plat on parcels 2400-42600, 2400-36305, and 2400-622 in Turtle Creek Township was submitted on, I missed to fill in the date there. The application was reviewed by the Planning Commission during the June 1 public hearing. Final recommendation from the Planning Commission was to approve the preliminary plat with no conditions. Options are to approve the preliminary plat, deny the preliminary plat, or remand it back to the Planning Commission. Recommendation is to adopt the findings of the Planning Commission and approve the preliminary plat as presented with no conditions. The preliminary plat map should be included in the packet there along with a map too. This one is a little unique. They've always accessed this site via an easement, which that language is included there. So they went through the variance process before applying for the single lot plat to change that road frontage requirement to legal easement language. That was granted, so they have legal access to it. And it's really a good project because they're taking two of their lots, one platted, one unplatted, and then buying more land. So what they'll have here is a fully compliant parcel. Other than that, it only has 50 feet of road frontage on a legal easement versus direct road frontage. But that variance was granted before, and in working with Jason, the attorney, about this, he recommended that we place conditions on that variance that they not be able to create additional dwelling sites as a result of the application. So that's why we did it into a single lot plat, which is what they really wanted in the first place anyway.
Okay, you've heard your request. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Danny. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Naoska. Discussion. So the township's okay with
Yep.
how that all went about?
They were involved up front because of the variance process, and then they presented the preliminary plat to the township at their board. I believe they may have even been at the meeting that night. I don't remember for sure, but they've been involved the whole time. I know they were at the variance hearing when they were here for that. So they're well aware of the process, and there's been ongoing discussions of the township potentially taking over that road to make it a public road. There's just not space to build a good road in there. So they've never taken that over.
Okay. All right. Any further discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
All right, last one. Rose City Canopy Incorporated, request for CUP, application for conditional use permit for expansion of the existing commercial business to include the manufacture and sale of utility trailers on parcel 0500004900, Berlin Township, was submitted on May 8th. The application was reviewed by the Planning Commission during the June 1 public hearing. The final recommendation from the Planning Commission was to grant the permit with the conditions below. Options are to grant the permit with conditions, deny the application, or remand it back to the Planning Commission. Recommendation is to adopt the findings of the Planning Commission and grant the CUP on parcel 0500004900 with the following conditions. 1, there should be no loading or unloading materials within the public roadway. 2, off-street parking shall be provided for all business traffic. 3, storage of supplies and finished products shall be stored meeting all setback requirements. 4, land use permits should be required for all future construction. And 5, the applicant must abide by all their applicable federal, state, and local standards.
Okay, you've heard the request. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion by Nazca. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Denny. Motion by Nazca, second by Denny. Discussion. If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, 80 pages. Yep. Standing reports. Auditor Treasurer.
The filing for Commissioner District 3 closes today at 5. We currently have 3 candidates, so this will move us towards a primary in August, with the final candidates being on the November ballot.
Okay.
So it closes today at 5. There are currently 3 filed. Have to report.
Okay. John, County Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did ask my office to prepare some numbers to report to the board and to the public. as you may know, in my office, we have one attorney who handles primarily juvenile matters. She has over 50 open juvenile delinquency cases and about 40 open child protection cases. We also have 3 assistants in my office who handle mostly criminal matters. They each have about 100 cases right now. That includes 260 open cases and 40 cases or so awaiting a charging decision, some more information, additional investigation, and so forth. I'm handling, as the board is aware, some probate cases, handle the civil commitments mostly, and I also handle the serious cases. For example, we have somebody in custody now who was convicted of first-degree drug. She was a drug mule, basically, for the cartel. She was stopped on 94 about 7 years ago. In exchange for her being deported, her 86-month prison sentence was stayed. Lo and behold, a couple weeks ago, she appeared at the border seeking asylum. So now she's back in custody, and she's going to sit her 86 months. So that's the fun we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners report. Commissioner Noska.
Yeah, so since last meeting, been to a few, but I guess, you know, we were all sitting at that Board of Appeals and Equalization. It went long, and it was some of them were tough decisions to make, but I feel like we got through it, and I think we made the right decisions on all those. So I was pretty happy with the way it all ended. And another thing, Fair Board. We met with the Fair Board here on the 8th as well of June, and just kind of finalized some things for the vendors that are there. So that's about all I have for since then.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Denny?
Yep, we had a emergency service board meeting, at our Todd County Development meeting, which, that was good. We got updated on, some, broadband moving forward, so that was encouraging. There'll be more news coming out on that. And, had our Prairie Lakes meeting in Perm. We had a Prairie Lakes, I guess, Finance Committee meeting, had a Hilltop Kitchen meeting. Then I went over to Staples, to RDO's farm over there for, stood in for Commissioner Becker while they, RDO was awarded a Clean Water Award, so, for all their farming efforts. But, and then, yeah, then just sat on the board meeting with everybody here for,
Okay.
equalization meeting, so that's all I have.
Okay, Commissioner Becker?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Denny, for sitting in at that Staples meeting. On the 6th, I had an extension meeting at the Zegan Farm, which was really interesting. We seen their robot milkers and so forth. On the 7th, it was finance and personnel. And we also had a special corrections meeting to deal with Juneteenth coming up. On the 8th, soil and water, personnel meeting, and Rainbow Rider meeting. Rainbow, we're working on the new bus garage in Alexandria. On the 12th, we had personnel, finance, and finance went from like 10 to 4, but we got done with all the first rounds of finance, thanks to Denise and Jolene, so that was good to see all of that. On the 13th, we had the special board meeting and equalization meeting. On the 14th, we had department head meeting, and also went to Lisa's retirement party, which was very nice, and thank you to Lisa for the years that she has given Todd County. On the 16th, I attended the District 4 AMC meeting in Fergus Falls, which was really interesting, all the updates from the legislature and so forth. So, and that's all I have to report, Chair.
Yeah, thank you. We'll start back at the last board meeting, and then we had a work session, personnel and extension. On the 7th, finance and personnel. On the 8th, water and soil, solid waste, Rainbow Rider. And again, Rainbow Rider with that building in Alec, the cost estimate come in pretty high. So they're trying to jockey around and, you know, look at what they can cut and what they can keep, and so that was interesting. personnel on the 12th, also finances. On the 13th, Board of Appeals, and we had a special board meeting. The 14th, department head meeting. I attended Lisa Chapin's retirement party, and that went very well. So thanks staff for putting that on. That night, had a park board meeting. Friday, we had our district meeting up at Fergus Falls. They brought up the 911. It's supposed to be a new enhanced. I found it interesting that Otter Tail would have to put up, I thought they said 20 towers, wasn't it? Because of the dips, the hills, the dips, because they couldn't get signal. So it's like, wow, put up 20 towers to get good 911. With the cell phones, it is created. And I'll be honest with you, I was up at the North Dakota State track meet, and I was sitting in a chair, and I took my phone and shoved it down in the cup holder. It dialed 911. So it's like, it can be done. You know, all of a sudden my phone is beeping, and it's like, oh my God. So, you know, it happens. But otherwise, the 911, to update it, it's gonna cost a little money. We gotta figure out what we're gonna do, and move it forward. But, with new technology, it's very interesting. Nobody's got landlines anymore. So when you dial 911, before, when you had your landline, they knew exactly where you were. Now you gotta bounce it off a tower. You could be within 8 to 10 miles
Yeah.
within that tower. So, yeah, very educational. But that's all I have. And for a coordinator's report, I am hoping Chris and her family are enjoying themselves. She took a well-deserved vacation. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn for the month of June.
So moved.
Motion by Noska. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Becker. Discussion. If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And we'll start the work. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Tuesday, June 20th, 2023 Todd County Board of Commissioners Work Session Agenda. Today we have 5 items. So number 1 would be potential cannabis ordinance. Adam.
Okay.
Morning.
I don't have a ton of information on this yet, but wanted to be out in front of it. We had our spring McPisa conference a couple weeks ago, and AMC was there to, this is the slide I stole right from his slide, or his PowerPoint, talking about the new cannabis legislation and that counties will have the opportunity to implement local ordinance, to have some local control on the land uses related to this. AMC's putting together a draft ordinance based on some counties that already have things in place, and that should be coming soon. I guess I wanted to be in a position to be prepared to take that to the planning commission and get that presented to the commissioners if that's something commissioners think we should look at, to have something in our ordinance related to it, even if it's just temporary. What I do know is what you see on the screen there. We can't prevent it from happening. There's some things already in place that we would implement into that local ordinance so that we could have the local review of how the proposal relates to schools, churches, and other things like that for setback purposes. There is extensive licensing and permitting that's required at the state level, but you need to get local permission first. So in order to do that, we need to have an ordinance. Again, I don't have everything in front of me because this is just coming out now, and we haven't seen that draft ordinance yet. So it should be coming soon, but I would like, if it's something that we want to put on a planning commission agenda, to get it back in front of you guys as soon as possible. Wanted to talk about it today and get the thumbs up to pursue that when we have the things we need. And hear any other discussion that you want the planning commission to consider.
Okay.
Mr. Chair? Yes. Adam, the local control, and this is reasonable restrictions on time and places and manners of operation of a cannabis business. Can you go more in depth of what is considered a business?
I would think in this case it could be the production or the growth of products,
Okay.
but also the retail aspect of it, and some may have both. I don't know that with certainty. This is so new and something we haven't seen before, but the other things would be, controlling like no sales on Sundays potentially, or things of that nature, or limiting the business hours till 5 p.m. or, just a lot of things you typically see with conditional uses, or just placing that in the ordinance as that is the standard.
Okay. As you go through it, definitely in favor of you guys taking care of, or working on this, but that's one area I would really like you to spend some time on.
Okay.
Right. So have any of the cities started this discussion also? Like the city of Long Prairie, or they have?
I don't know the answer to that, but I could reach out to them and see if they have. I've talked with some of our neighboring counties. I just talked to Dina from Wadena. They're kind of in the same boat, waiting to see what AMC presents as the options. But I guess I'm just trying to keep you guys on the forefront of what might be coming here and related to it. So I have not talked to any of our local cities yet, though.
And Commissioner Newman, it's really interesting you bring that up, because it's who would take over. Would the county have more bite, or would the cities actually have more say over it?
It would depend on where the proposal's located, because we don't have zoning jurisdiction within the city boundaries. This would be just your outside of those city boundaries where the county has control.
Yes, Randy?
And the only thing I can see is, yes.
City council meeting, they voted to, option to kind of kick the can down the road and not have to make a decision, so they give themselves as much time as possible before they have to decide what to do. They can only do that so long, but, so they haven't made any decisions yet. They decide to put it off.
Yeah, because it goes into effect August 1st.
Right, and that's where we'd like to have it as close to that as possible, but we still haven't even seen this draft ordinance from AMC yet. And there also is another deadline of maybe first of the year or something like that, where this would really be considered a temporary ordinance until that next deadline, and then there may be requirements to repeal it, or you can change it, whatever at that time, but having something even temporary in place with some standards locally would be my recommendation to the board, and we can put that through the process as soon as we get some direction. I have no idea what, like, the makeup or what the language would be of that ordinance, but we're just waiting to see what that may be.
It's just gonna put more pressure on our law enforcement, because who's gonna be the enforcement agency? Okay?
The county.
If we come up through planning and zoning and create the ordinances on this, who's gonna enforce it?
Right, it'll be us enforcing the locals' set of rules, but all of their other permitting, license, other things at the state level, we probably don't have much control over. And it also limits us from even preventing it from happening locally if it was something we didn't want in a certain residential district or something of that nature. To my knowledge, you have to just meet those setback requirements. There's a limit on the number of retailers per number of residents in an area and things of that nature. If you're meeting all those things, to my understanding, we don't have a lot of additional control.
Okay, because then I'm gonna throw the other curveball into this, okay? If you got a permit to carry, and you get on to medical marijuana, or you're growing this stuff, I believe you're gonna lose your right to carry,
I would have no idea the answer to that.
correct?
That's, people don't know that, but that is a requirement.
Right.
To carry, is you can't be under the influence.
No.
Even if it's legal, you can't be.
Because it's still a federal,
It's still a federal offense, yes.
yep. So people need to be, yeah, they need to be aware of that, you know, if, that's fine, but I'd rather have my guns,
Yeah.
sorry, you know?
And I guess what we're looking at here is strictly the land uses related to it. The legal stuff involving law enforcement, I'm not aware of that. This would just be strictly, placement and other land use requirements related to establishing a business or a grow site or something like that. Yep.
Because, the legislators, they don't know how much this is gonna snowball, and it's gonna snowball down onto the county.
Yep. So being out in front of it and having at least something in place established, I think will be helpful as we learn the long-term implications of this coming to the local area.
Okay,
Well, and it is a bigger deal for us as a county, for our law enforcement, for Sheriff Allen and his, because we have so many cities that don't have their own law enforcement here.
right.
So, that lays on you. Not, the city can make their own ordinances and have that, but now you've got to enforce them, and you have no say in what they are. We have no say in what they are at the city level. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a struggle we're gonna have to deal with here.
So probably it would be a good idea to get the
The
cities
together,
involved with the county and figure this
So
game
everyone's on the
out.
same page would be
Sure.
a big deal.
We're all on the same page.
This is something we've tried to coordinate on a variety of things, is meeting with the cities more often, but now we have a specific topic for discussion. So we can get that done, and if I'm understanding this, it's something we should pursue as soon as we have a little more direction. Maybe we'll have to have you involved, John. But then any updates or anything, I'll be sure to keep you involved. Otherwise, this will be going to the Planning Commission as soon as we possibly can.
Okay.
Any other input?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Children's mental health.
Good morning,
Good morning.
Mr. Chair,
Morning.
Commissioners. So we are here today to talk about children's mental health and a need for another social worker due to an increase in caseload size. This is Kim's first presentation. So her and I are gonna tag team it, but I'm gonna let her take it over. We did review this with personnel, and they asked that we follow the process of coming to work session. So we are here to present the same information that we did present to personnel, so.
Yeah, absolutely. So currently we have 4 children's mental health case managers, and our caseloads are steadily increasing. So state statute says that you can have 15 on your caseload. Everyone is above that. So we are right now 14 over, so we're almost, we have a need for another person because we have a full caseload. Even since we met with personnel a couple weeks ago, we've increased our caseload by 3. So we continue to steadily increase. Currently, our program costs $95,960.50, and that's with 9 cases that don't have that MA pay source. So, the revenue that we get is $100,000.27. So, we do have more revenue than our costs. Let's see, the other concern with that, with having over, you can only do that so long before the state will change your case management reimbursement rate, which seems kind of wonky. So you, there's nothing good about
Rewarding, yeah.
rewarding. Thank you. I couldn't think of the word for being efficient and, being able to take more cases
They actually
on.
penalize you for being over that 15 for caseload size around reimbursement. So we would be bringing in less dollars for our hits than we would if we managed our caseload sizes at what their recommendation is.
That's basically all I have.
Yeah,
to
I
about
mean,
for-
they are, this is an opportunity to really keep those clients in front of us at all times. Not only does it benefit the county on the revenue side with the targeted case management, but also to know where our clients are at. Previously, we had worked with and contracted with Northern Pines, and it was, although it worked for many years, we didn't know the volume of clients they had until possibly they were placed, and then the bill showed up. So we feel like we can better manage those clients and look for opportunities to help hopefully avoid any residential placement or placement of those kids. And, just keeping our foot in the door of those high-risk clients also.
Yep, and in talking to the supervisor at Northern Pines, they're actually down a case manager as well, so they're unable. We actually took some of their cases to try to help them out, so.
And they don't plan to replace that position in children's mental health. Workforce shortage has affected everybody, unfortunately, and they have to optimize where they think they need that social worker. And meaning we have kind of taken back over children's mental health. They understandably have said, we need to resource that social worker into a different program.
And even as I started as the behavioral health supervisor in February, we have steadily grown as the school year closes. We will see more referrals come fall once school gets back in session. So we just continue to increase. The need is there. It's continuing to get greater.
Mr. Chair, if I could, where are you seeing the growth, or who, are the schools letting you know?
Yep, the
You
schools
know-
make referrals, families, other like in-home services. It's, countywide. There isn't really a specific county. Sometimes we might see it in, like a certain school district was making a few referrals at a time, but it really is our whole county.
Okay.
Yep, and then when we have
And
to.
families reaching out for help,
Yep.
self-referring.
Yep, sometimes a physician will make a referral. We get them from all over, and we'll take them from all over.
Right.
So we do get them from like Sauk Center, Osakis, that area,
Yep.
where they,
If they are a Todd County resident, then they would refer them to us. So if it was from the Osakis School District, it was from them, so.
all right.
The need is growing,
Yep.
unfortunately.
Yeah, and if Northern Pines aren't, if they're not gonna fill their staffing, we gotta do something.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm, yep.
And if we have control over that, it would be better.
Yes, it's worked out very positively for us.
Yes,
Yeah.
we have really great children's mental health case
Yes,
managers right now.
They're doing a great
so-
job.
Any other questions? No? Okay, all right.
We'll bring it back to the next board meeting.
Yep.
All right, perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Demolition Waste Hauling Program, Chris and Mike. Gentlemen, how are you?
Good morning. All is well.
Good.
This morning, we come before you regarding our demolition hauling services. This is something that is not new to the Solid Waste Committee, something that we have been discussing just about a little over a year now. Something that we dug into, upon request from our committee and from Randy Newman, to do some research and reviewing some of our programs that we've run in the past, and this is one of them. When I was hired by the county, this was something that Chris was passionate about himself, Mr. McCon, so we dug into this as an area to improve our services, but also take a look at what we're doing and what we're doing not well also as at this time. The background, Todd County Solid Waste Department has provided roll-off services for many years. This has been a tremendous service to the community. It helps support proper disposal and demolition waste. It also assists in some economic development. As part of our continuous improvement efforts, we periodically review programs within our department. If you could go to the, raise up on the memorandum just to show the cost.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
Okay.
So as we were requested by the committee, we did a 5-year average research of our roll-off services. None of these numbers reflect our administration costs. This is our purely just operating cost for the 5-year average, for the trucking, along with the mileage and the use of one full-time driver. The other form, if you want to roll down further, is our container costs, and we are basically at the end of our life on our containers. A lot of our containers are over 10 years old to 20 years old, so we got substantial costs coming up to reprocess those if we decide to stay in this. But the revenue and the costs that are showing there. So in a summary of this, over the last 5 years, the county has been losing roughly approximately $55,000 a year in our transporting and rolling, using our roll-off industry services. So last year was because of the high rate of fuel and the uptick in cost of equipment. Our operating cost was just under $74,000 that it cost us to operate last year. So a significant loss. The other assets that we feel that is the trucking costs. We have 2 trucks that are over 20 years old that need a replacement. So this is another thing that we're looking at. Is it now the time to walk away from this and let private hauling get involved? The other thing is with the discussion of the new building being established, this is something where we could use our labor assets in better servicing that area along with improving the existing facility of our recycling. So that's a short, brief summation of that. The other risks that we also showed and discussed was the liability aspect of this equipment, where we're constantly going on people's private property, placing roll-offs probably in areas we really shouldn't be placing them. We've had some issues with breaking up people's sidewalks and that type of thing also in the past. We've been pretty good on that part of it, but it is also another risk factor that is also involved in this. So today we'd just like to bring this before the work session and hear your discussion, kind of comments on regarding this.
Okay. Questions from the board?
I got a question, Randy, if I could.
Yep.
What's the private sector now on this? Is there someone local, someone available, to help these people that need them? Because construction, I know from previous professions that having a roll-off is very, very nice to have, and it keeps things from being thrown on the ground and thrown around, and it saves a lot on just trash. So, is there someone around that does this local?
Yep.
Yes, there's multiple companies that are doing it. Long Prairie Sanitary, Opats Metals, Osaka Silo, TK Industries out of Glenwood, which is a very large, we're starting to see even a lot of them in Todd County. I spend probably 20% of my work week driving, filling that position in between, vacations and, short staff of situations with my employees there. So you see a lot of Tom Kramer canisters around, and they're just completely expanding. I think also because of their ability to process their demo there also as well.
All the way to the north end of the county, they're covered? Okay.
You bet.
Good.
Yep. So there is a substantial amount of contractors already providing that service. Highway 27, I know they do a lot of metal salvage containers. They don't necessarily do demo, but they do place a lot of them like upon auto dealers, that type of stuff where they're doing a lot of metal repair. He has approximately, I think, 15 to 20 roll-offs himself also.
Great, all right, thanks.
Yep. Any other questions?
Yeah, Mr. Chair. I believe also, as long as that we have adequate private haulers out there to take care of this business, that we should move on and bring it to the next board meeting.
Yep. And I agree with that because, you know, we have that new facility coming. I think we need to focus on our recycling at the new facility and not be running all over the county looking for our roll-offs. You know, it's just one of those deals.
You bet. And the other thing that Chris, Mr. McCon and myself researched was a lot of the private hauling that we did, what I call as our problematic recyclables, and that is like tires and our waste steel. When you guys did our site visit last year, we did condense that a lot. We had a lot of contamination to our neighbors because we let everything pile up for over a course of a year to a little over a year, and we'd have a lot of wind contamination, that kind of thing. It was costing the county about right around $100,000 to have a private contracting companies come in and load our tires and steel. We currently are doing that ourselves. We're stepping away from some of that. So, I mean, you look at the cost of that alone, just to handle 2 processes is almost $100,000, where we could be trucking that ourselves if we get out of the roll-off business, and we can handle that easily for probably a $40,000 to $50,000 cost. So there's some considerable savings by pulling that staff and servicing our own facility and not spend so much time doing the roll-offs. So there's a lot of hidden costs there as well.
One more thing, Mr. Chair, if I may. One more. So we'll be retaining all staff. There won't be any cuts to staff or anything like that. All staff that were tasked to this will be retained and be utilized for something else.
That is correct.
Perfect.
And I want to thank you for doing this because I asked for this many years ago and it got lost in the shuffle, and
You bet.
I appreciate it.
Well, I think the timing of it for the county itself is ideal for where we're going to be at with the new facility in 2 years. And, you know, as you look at the facility and the growth of the recyclables that we're required to, and some of the permitting changes, that the way we handle our waste up on the hill, and some of those things that no longer can be in contact with rainwater, through our MPCA permitting, it is an ideal time for us to shift.
Okay, great. So bring this back to the July 5th meeting, and the
Okay.
board will make a decision then. Okay. Thank you on that, guys. Cap grant.
Thank you, Chair. So for this one we're just gonna look at a review of our budget. So as you've heard, I think it was at the last work session, Representative Wiener was here and explained that we received an additional, I think it was 2.79 million from the state of Minnesota. So just doing the math on that, we already had a $4 million grant. And part of that commitment was that we as a county were gonna contribute 1.5 to the project. So when you add all that together, our budget on paper that we have available and we planned for is 8.3 million. Stick that up on your horizon up here, and if you would scroll to the second page of this cost estimate, and then go to the bottom of the page. One more, I'm sorry. Right there in the gray. So this number lines up conveniently with the budget number. I think conveniently because we shared with Representative Wiener that according to this number, we needed an additional 2.79 million, and that's how it all adds up. So that bottom number is 8.3 million. So in that sense, this works really well, but just want to take some time and go through a couple of the details of this to see how we got to this. So there's, the number above the 8.28 million says contingencies, 1,916,000. That number is a good number to have in here right now, because we haven't bid the project. So the engineer's saying, gosh, you know, bids can come in wild, up and down, for all kinds of reasons. So we wanna hold that there for now. So all this being said, I'm not gonna go back through the details, but would like to, you can see there's an alternate 5 showing on this, and then there's other alternates above. And is it okay if I just approach the screen to point? Because there's so much up there.
Here's a, no?
So there is different options for deducts, and maybe if you could
Yep.
just scroll up a little bit. So like, it shows here alternate 5 for, goes all the way back to 1, but these are options to reduce the project. We had talked about this again when we were in a situation where we weren't sure that we had enough money. So if I could just explain alternate deducts. What that means is, you know, we met on a committee level, and we met with the commissioners at a work session. I think it was a work session. And all of us were concerned about the concept of reducing the project and lowering quality, but we are also trying to be financially responsible. And so, working with the consultant, we created these alternates. And the alternate doesn't mean we removed things from the project. What we did is we asked for the contractor to give us a price to reduce. So the project, the main project stayed the same, but we had these options that if the budget comes in too high, it's, oh shoot, what do we do now? So if I could just go now to, there's a map further down that is a better illustration of this. And if you could pan maybe a little bit to the colored side. I'm gonna approach the screen again. So one alternate was these green areas are concrete. Concrete's very expensive. If in the future you wanted to put concrete in, you could, if this wasn't done now. So as an alternate, we didn't remove it, but as an alternate, we said, gosh, what if we run into financial woes at bid opening? We would just make these, this area would be gravel, and that would be gravel. So again, we don't wanna do things that paint us into a corner. This is something that maybe if we didn't do this now, you could come back and concrete that. There's other ideas we had, but that were ideas would permanently pigeonhole us, if you will. Another option that we had was to, this paved area, pavement is quite expensive, so instead of paving this area, having that aggregate. Those are pretty convenient reductions in work. This was probably what I'll call the most impactful on operations, is reducing the size of that tipping floor by 20 feet. That actually had the greatest savings if you look at how to save money on a project. Had we shortened that, or if we were to decide to reduce the project by 20 feet, I'm looking for that number here. That was a $350,000 savings if we were to do that. So all this being said, coming back to the board, our intention is to keep these alternates in the bid project so that you see all the numbers on bid opening. The consultant has already done the work. They've already packaged a bidding package that shows this, and it just gives us some flexibility at bid opening, because you just never know what you're gonna get for a bid until you open the bids. However, we don't have to accept these. We can go along with the project with all the concrete and pavement and building as was originally designed. So we've created some flexibility in the project now, because once you open the bids, if you don't have this and you try to barter with the contractor, well, the law is you have to award it to him. And now you have no leverage to barter.
Can I ask a question? So when you send out these bids, the packet's gonna go out where they're gonna do the whole project, and then they're gonna also bid taking these portionments out?
Yes,
Is
it's
that
called
correct?
it's an alternate deduct.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that I understood it. So
Yep.
the bids, when we get them back in, will be the full project, then the contractor will say, less bid option, you had the options 1, option 2, option.
And
So they'll
so,
be deducting those amounts.
that's correct,
So when we
and
look at them, we can analyze, do we wanna keep that in or not keep it in?
that's correct. And so when we bring those bidding documents to you, we'll have reviewed them, and that would be the time where we'll have to make a decision. You gotta decide, for the contractor's sake, before you give them the project, what project are you giving them? Are you giving them the whole project with all that concrete and bituminous and building? Or are you wanting to shrink it by doing less concrete and pavement? They wanna know that because they need to tell their subs and they need to plan accordingly. So I'll just stop there and see if you have any questions.
So, here's my take on it. I'd rather get the building done as designed, okay? We were fortunate enough to get money from, the legislators. But I look at it this way: if we start cutting and saying we're gonna take, 20 feet off there and not concrete this and not concrete that, 10 years down the road, I don't want the constituents going, what the hell were those commissioners thinking, because we needed that 20 feet, or, why didn't they concrete it? Just get it done and move forward. Inflation is kicking our ass. And it's not only just the solid waste facility, it's every committee we sit on, whether it's Rainbow Rider or anybody that's building right now. And if we wait, it's gonna be more, okay? So I'm looking at it right now, we've been into this now 3 years, correct, Commissioner Becker?
At least.
Okay, so I'm looking at it saying, what, let's do it right. I'm hoping the constituents understand why we're doing it right, is because, that facility we got right now was built, what, 1980?
88 was the last edition, yeah, so 83
Okay,
or something.
yeah, so, you're looking at 40-plus years that building has lasted. Well, we had to do a lot of restructuring as far as making sure the walls were attached and all that stuff, but, let's do it right. And I don't know how my other
Yeah,
fellow commissioners feel about this, but again, like I said, 10 years down the road, I don't want them coming back on, Jesus. Why'd they do that?
Mr. Chair, if I could?
Yep.
I agree with the Commissioner Newman, except I like to see the alternates remain in there, because if we get a bid price that's just outrageous, we have still something that we can go back on. Hopefully, we don't have to. And we can rank them, like the space in the building would be my number one. Keep that in, that's most important. If that one stays gravel or tar, that's, something we could do the following year. But I would recommend these alternates stay in, but agree with Commissioner Newman that hopefully we can do the whole project correctly. Yeah, it's been a long time coming.
Right, so was that the administrator from Becker that approached us on Friday? Because they're doing was it Becker that was doing something to do with solid waste?
They have a recycling facility they're building.
Yeah.
Right now.
Then there's, yep,
And he come over, the administrator come over and warned us. He said, whatever you guys do, keep an eye on everything. He said it's MPCA and that are, yeah.
He said that part of our money has to go back, that they'll put on more conditions onto our building. Are you aware of that?
well, we already have a contract with the state of Minnesota And so everything that they've stipulated is in the contract. Once we have a contract, they can't add to that.
He said something about the new money, that they can add new conditions with the new money. And that's what, he came up and talked to us, he says, be aware, because you might lose up to $1 million of that new money. He said, be aware.
And we're like, oh.
So that's just a pass on.
Thank you. And we haven't received any paperwork on the new money, so we'll be careful.
Just
Yeah.
keep an eye out on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Commissioner Newman, just so you know, for the record, we started this with Coordinator Joe Hatch in 2017.
In 17,
Yeah.
6 years, yes,
Yeah.
yeah. What's the timeline for the bidding to go out now?
So I've asked the MPCA when they'll be reviewing our permit, which they received, I don't remember, like 3 or 4 weeks ago. We
Okay.
haven't heard from them. I called them again last week. I know they're busy, I'm just stating the facts. And we've shared with the work session that the permitting process requires a public hearing. So the permit is subject to the public's input. So for that reason, we do not want to award the project without getting past that public input. If you look at all these pipelines and utility companies, that when they go before public hearing, they don't spend hundreds of millions of dollars on anything until they're past that, because that's a vulnerable place for investment. So until that permit's past that, our plan is to not, is to get sequenced so that you're not awarding a bid before that. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, you know,
So
we're
hopefully,
kinda in that,
hopefully
that
August,
squeeze
September.
right now.
We have 5 other projects that are further behind than this one, so frankly, I'm not focusing much time on this one, because we've done all the work. I mean, we've worked really hard, and now it's on the MPCA's desk.
Okay.
And, that's where we're at.
All right. Any other questions?
No,
Okay.
it's-
You got the equipment cost down below.
So I put this in here, this wasn't actually in the original grant application in 2017.
Back to 19.
So those numbers aren't actually included in the gray totals down below. I just calculated that out to make sure I was right. So if you could go to the next page, to the bottom of the actual last page of the presentation.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. So we're kind of riding 2 horses right now on this. This is the capital asset plan that we use to prepare our 2024 budget. I've highlighted items that are, whether we have to have them now or we need to have them eventually for this facility. The top one is a grapple. And that one we've got further out just because of the cost. But it also includes a semi, a used semi, used walking floor trailers. So that number on that page in the lower right bottom, that's a little bit off the screen, where it says total estimated, is $865,000. We do have a department budget and we have an asset plan. And some of this is in our asset plan, or well, essentially all of it is. But honestly, I'm an optimist, and I think with that contingency that's in the project budget, that $1 million, if the project in theory came in the way the engineer estimated it, you'd have $1 million left, and we would use as much as that as we can to buy those assets for this project. So I just bring that up because it's another important element. The numbers never come in where the engineer estimated. And usually when we award, we keep some contingency. We keep around 3 to 5%. So just maybe some round numbers is, let's just say that half of that contingency gets burnt up in change orders and unpredicted things, et cetera. We still would have $500,000 of that left. Well, if we could pay for 500,000 of that 865 in equipment with a grant project, that'd be a pretty sweet deal. So that's the other thing that we got going on in addition to the project itself, is getting that equipment updated.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I could. I was just curious, have you guys ever did any research or investigation on what private hauling would cost from Burrville to Perm, and we owning the trailers and so forth, but not the semi, or putting our Todd County driver in a semi, but having that go private?
Right, so Becker County, Wadena County, Otter Tail County, I don't think Clay subs out, but the 3 counties, we all hire third-party semi-drivers. So we have numbers on that.
Do they have their own truck, or are they driving the county's semi?
Well, our intent here is to have, and we've discussed this with the Solid Waste Committee, our intent here isn't to remain where we're at. We want that semi so that we can haul waste. But our intent is to hire third party,
To come in?
just not go from nothing to everything. We want to have our own trucks so we can use our staff, but I'll call it, you tip your toe in the water before you jump in. So, hire a third-party hauler that might haul 50 to 100 loads a year. We want it to be enough to get their interest, get competitive bids, and start building some experience with that. We don't want to go all in. I guess just call me liking to transition a little smoother, because if that was a bad contract, it was a bad party, difficult situation, you're not all in with them. You still have your own staff and equipment. Otter Tail County happens to own its own trailers. And that's, I have experience with Otter Tail County. Wadena County owns their own trailers. And let me just, my own thinking on this is, and I would love to get information from people that know more about semis than me, because I don't know how to run a semi. But how many guys do you think live in Otter Tail County with a semi? A lot.
A lot.
And we need a wet kit to run one of these, and a wet kit is a hydraulic system, so I'm guessing that's $10,000 to $15,000 to add a wet kit. That's not the end of the world, but that trailer is $80,000 for one trailer. So how many of those semi-drivers are willing to invest in 3 trailers at $250,000 to bid on your project? I think you'd thin out your herd, and you'd have a lot less competition if you made them have to buy $250,000 a trailer to bid on this work. So my theory is, not that it's perfect, but is let's own the trailers, and we can look at it more in the future, but no matter what, it's a tricky situation, because if they own it, we can damage it at our facility and we'll have to pay them. I think they can own it, and then
Right.
there's, at some point, we're both driving the same, we're both handling that trailer. So if it's theirs and when we're driving it, we can damage it. Well, if it's ours and when they're driving it, they could damage it. So it's a horse apiece. There's no perfect balance there. It's different when you do construction. You say, come and do dirt work at my site, bring your own dozer, because you're never driving it yourself.
One thing, if I may add also, stuff that we did talk briefly about it at one of our committee meetings, was the reason for keeping a couple drivers is just the ability to be flexible. Right now, we currently use private hauling to do all our glass. I have not had a truck be able to get here in 2 months. So you deal with that because of the labor shortage. The difficulty of finding CDL drivers has gotten to be a really big issue for every industry in trucking. So that's another thing to help us. So we've been loading our own roll-offs with glass until now. He finally came yesterday. So we've been waiting 10 weeks to haul our glass and we're full. So that's the problem if you go completely into hauling, especially, it's not quite so much, just all my years of working with the construction industry, but this time of year is our busiest time, and it's the busy construction season. Well, where do you think all those rental truck goes? They come from, and the Strategic Glass is the company that we use currently to haul our glass. That's where he loses all his drivers too. In the summer season, they go do contract construction work. So they're hauling asphalt, gravel. It pays better. So in the wintertime, when we're not as busy, that's when I can get trucks, but now we're really busy and he can't get any drivers. So that's another thing that, you know, we did discuss a little bit, reason of having one of our own trucks.
So at one time, we did have a private individual hauling to Perham.
Oh, okay.
Out of the solid waste facility in Barberville. It was a constituent of mine.
Yeah.
Why we went away from that, I don't know.
Yeah.
But he was taking, I think, 2 loads a week up there, so.
We'd love to get a quote from him.
So, okay. So this is your wish list if we have anything left over, kind of, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions for Chris and Mike?
Okay.
All righty.
All right.
Thank you. See you on the 5th.
Yep.
Rainbow Rider, Tom, are you the only one they sent down?
Yeah, with audits going on and everything else,
That's right, they had audits coming in.
Oh,
you're gonna
okay.
have to just deal with me.
All right. Well, thank you.
for having me.
Yes.
My name's Tom Partington, and I'm with Rainbow Rider, and I work out of Lowry office, our headquarters there, if you will. I'm the operations manager. I've been there about 5 years now. And talking about buildings, ever since I started, I've been working on a building, so I can relate, as you
Yeah.
guys, you two know, so. But I'm not here to talk about that, but, in the past, we've had our TAC meetings where every other month we visit a different county. We have 6 counties that we represent, and trying to mix it up, do something a little bit different. We used to come and have a meeting here, and invite some of the community here, and then this last year we did bus rides and kind of drove through the community with a bus driver, showed some where we go, what we do, and maybe some concern areas that we might have. And this year, we kind of left it up to you guys, what would work. So I'm here basically to give a short history on Rainbow Rider, what it is that we do, try to answer any questions that you might have. And then if anybody wanted to, I was told that I did bring a bus here. And I hope I parked in the right spot back here.
Keep him in
Because there
here.
was a limit out there, I think, and so take it easy. But anyway, there's a lot of cars out here, so it was hard to find a spot, but I didn't want to parallel it. So if somebody wanted to run over to the bus garage here in town, to take a peek at that, we can certainly, up to you if you want, we can hop on the bus and run over there and do that. And visit with any of the drivers that might be there. They're in and out here. One thing nice about the Long Prairie facility is that it's right in town. And so our drivers that are here are able to go back to our garage and have lunch, or if they have some downtime, they can stop there, and they take immaculate care of the building. The place is very well taken care of by our drivers, so we're very proud of that. But anyway, I thought what I would start off with, and I'm not gonna read all of it, but I'm just gonna go through some of it. Brenda printed off a history of Rainbow Rider, and I thought maybe if some of you aren't as familiar with it, I'll just hit some of the highlights. And tell me if I'm getting too long-winded, because I do tend to talk. I sold insurance for a long time, and that's what I do. So, Back in 1995 is when Rainbow Rider started. 5 counties at the time, Douglas, Grant, Pope, Stevens, and Traverse, joined to partner with the Minnesota Department of Transportation to create a public transit system. Administrative offices and dispatch located in space donated by Stevens County in their courthouse in Morris, Minnesota. Contracted with Angen, if I pronounce that right, Transit Management of Garfield for dispatchers, drivers, and maintenance of vehicles. Bus and volunteer driver services started in September of 1995. We transported our first passenger after driving more than 3,500 miles. So the way I understand the story, and maybe you guys understand it more than I do, basically we had a bus. It was just driving around looking for riders. And after 3,500 miles, they got a rider, and since then it's taken off pretty well. In 1998, our fleet grew to 9 buses. We relocated the administration and dispatch operations to Lowry. And Lowry had the highest elevation, so it also had the best radio signal. Because we have the radios on our buses, so. And for some reason out here in Long Prairie, it has to do with connections, but this is probably the most troublesome spot we have for radio connection. But for the most part, it's very good, but we do have to contact Brandon Communications periodically to tweak it. Back in the same year, 1998, Rainbow Rider released to own a newly constructed building from the city of Lowry. And then 1999, the governing board opted to bring dispatch and driver operations as well as bus maintenance in-house. Grant County left Rainbow Rider seeking to provide its own transit system in that year. In 2000, West Central Multi-Counties Joint Powers Transit Board became Rainbow Rider Transit Board, doing business as Rainbow Rider. And we received Transit System of the Year award. In 2001, we built our first heated bus storage garage, 9-stall garage, and we exceeded 10,000 rides in October of that year. That was 2001. 2005, we built Rainbow Rider's office and 8-stall garage building out in Lowry. Added Saturday service in Alexandria. Developed a website. Began advertising on buses. So as you can see, all our buses have advertising on the side. Extended bus hours in Alexandria for service Monday through Friday. And the Saturday deal, is become a big deal, but it's really hard to find people that want to drive on Saturdays too. But it's a pretty busy day for us. 2006, commuter route between Glenwood and Alexandria. Sold original Rainbow Rider building. And then 2007 began providing contact transportation for the southern part of Todd County. That's when we entered Todd County in 2007. Added 2 handicap accessible minivans to our fleet through a grant in 2008 through Prime West Health Systems. And that was handy because sometimes we can get out there. We used to run to Browns Valley and so forth. We didn't have a lot of rides, but we had a minivan that you could put a wheelchair inside as well. Since the transmissions have fallen out and we don't have them anymore. 2009, the Rainbow Rider shop and garage was built. Added a class 500 to our fleet. That's a larger bus, which we were able to, 32 passenger. And we used to park it here for quite a while. Received 2 buses with some funds, federal funds. 2010, we purchased Alexandria Bus Garage. Built Long Prairie Bus Garage. Hosted the Minnesota Bus Rodeo in Alexandria. Welcome back, Grant County came back. And we received some hybrid buses. So now we've got the garage in Alec, Lowry, and Long Prairie. 2012, Rainbow Rider welcomes Todd County to the Joint Powers Board. Dispatching drivers began using Route Match dispatching software. So that's a software where they plug in when people call into our office. They can plug in their rides right there, and it goes right to the tablet that's on everyone's bus, and it shows them who they're going to pick up, where they're going to pick up, what time, and all that type of thing. In 13, provided intercity bus transportation between Morris and Alexandria. Got a new computerized phone system. 14, we started fixed deviated route transportation in Alexandria, because normally most of it, and again it is right now, but it's all dial-a-ride, but we had 5 or 6 locations where we'd stop every half hour and pick up, and you could ride for $1 to go from, for example, the nursing home to the Walmart to the clinic to to the mall in Alexandria, that type of thing. And then also in that year, 2014, we installed cameras in Rainbow Rider bus fleet. The reason we have cameras, as you can about imagine, all of our buses are camera, video, and audio, and that's, and I always tell our drivers, that's mostly for our protection. When we get a complaint about something, we can load it up and watch what happened, and I would say 95+% of the time, our bus driver is cleared of any wrongdoing. It's maybe an exaggeration or a misunderstanding or something like that. But we've also we've had law enforcement call us to look for footage on some complaint they had about a passenger or things like that. So we've used it for many different things. In 2015, we modeled 2 garage spaces in the Lowry building into new conference and training room. That's where we have our board meetings out there. Remodeled old conference room to include 2 additional office spaces. And in 16, we offered health insurance to full-time employees, added dispatcher to Saturdays, added additional bus to Alexandria Saturday service. So now we're up to 3 buses on Saturdays. In 2017, dental insurance offered to full-time employees, purchased and installed electronic sign to the Alexandria garage. And 18, added full-time human resource position, extended dispatch hours until 6:30 p.m. Monday through Friday. So basically our dispatch stays until the last bus arrives at their home. So whatever location it would be, our dispatch will stay to make sure their buses get in safe and sound. And in 19, added a 3rd bus. Oh, we already did that. Added 2 class 300 vehicles to our fleet. Added 2 staff support vehicles. So we got like a service truck for our mechanics, so they can go out and repair tires or whatever it might be that they have. And then we also purchased a commuter vehicle, if you will, like for people like myself or Brenda, our director, or anybody else, so we can drive out to Long Prairie and to Morris and to Grant County. And finally, in 2020, we remodeled our dispatch area. That was really open and hard to hear, and you can about imagine the amount of phone calls that they get throughout the day. So we enclosed it, and they have their own spaces inside there, and that worked out really well. So since 2003, Rainbow Rider has driven over 12,236,055 miles and provided more than 2,718,000 rides. 30,000 by way of Rainbow Rider volunteer drivers. Rainbow Rider has employed 170 people. This is a couple years old, but 54 are currently employed, and that's fairly accurate. It's a little bit closer to 60, I think. 45 county commissioners have held a place on our transit board. 5 transit directors have been employed that were assisted by 4 MnDOT project managers, and Rainbow Rider has owned approximately 90 vehicles. And it would be about 15 more for the last 3 years if we could get our buses in. So that's a history. Any questions on that? I thought it was just some fun information. And then to give you a little bit of information about Todd County, every month, Mike in our office runs statistics, how many bus rides we have, how many passengers we have, things like that. To give an idea, this would be for May of 2023. The total for Rainbow Rider, total number of rides was 12,179 rides. Todd County had 1,652. A year ago, it was 1,646, so it stayed pretty consistent. And that averages out to about 2.44 rides per hour. MnDOT really hopes that we can be around 3, but ever since COVID started, it seems like we've always been a little bit under, but we have grown over the last couple of years, and so that's been doing well for us. And we offer in all of our counties, the same rate. What we charge, for example, is if you call in for a ride, 0 to 5 miles is a $2 bill. If it's the same day, if you call today for a ride today, it's an extra $1. We don't always have room. We get pretty busy, but it is an extra $1. Still a bargain, I think. If you go 5.1 to 10 miles, it's $4. 10.1 to 20 is $6, and then after that it's $2 for every additional mile after that. And I mentioned the $1 extra for same day. Kids 3 to 11 are half price when they're with the adult, and under 3, excuse me, is always free, but obviously they must be accompanied by an adult. And then we also offer, if somebody has an aide, if we have a disabled person and they need an aide that can come and help them, they always ride for free. Do that. Some of the concerns we bring to all the counties when we do these meetings, and they're all the same. Not one is better than another, but generally it's in the winter. You know, it's if we get a lot of snow or whatever, but would be handicap accessible businesses downtown. I mean, we're always under the impression that it's a law, but we see a lot of that that's not. So then our bus drivers end up going through some back alley, and then we are door to door. So we will stop our bus and we will go to the door and help that person to our bus, as long as we can keep our bus in view. We can't walk through, around the block. And the same thing when we drop them off. We'll help them if they need assistance and all that kind of thing. But sometimes it's difficult in that. Other than that, Long Prairie's been very good for us, or Todd County has been very good for us. We do have interpretation services also. One of our dispatchers is bilingual, and in fact, her sister, we hire as an interpreter as well. So if people call, they can actually, it's right on, there's an extension we can send right to our interpreter. And on average, per month, you'll see about 35 customers that use that interpretative service that we have, and that affects about 200 rides a month and about $800 in revenue per month. So, and I'll open up to any questions that you guys might have for me. Hopefully I can answer them.
So
I'm sorry, can I add one thing? I'm sorry, Commissioner. We are adding a new building in Alexandria eventually. I forgot to bring that up. And the reason for that is Alexandria has about 54% of our ridership comes from Douglas County, and currently we have a bus garage that was built for 5 or 6 buses, but we house 9 in it. So it makes for some really creative parking in coming in and out of there. And so we are putting up a building in the southwest end of town, kind of by the industrial park area, that would house hopefully up to 15 buses. And then we also have drivers that are driving a distance to come out to Lowry to get a bus because we have more storage there, and then taking that bus into Douglas County to drive the routes. So this would save us some money too.
Okay. No questions, you guys?
No.
So are we still doing the route from Long Prairie to Sauk Center?
No.
If they want to go to Walmart?
No, we changed that a while ago to the Alec one because someone else services the Sauk Center area.
Okay.
But that was a case where we needed in advance notice an X amount of riders, like 3 riders, but we never had one. It's kind of like the rides where we offered from Elbow Lake to Alexandria. We would offer if you gave us some notice, and 2 or 3 riders. Never happened, so we switched to Fergus Falls because they thought that would work. We never got a ride there. Same thing with Long Prairie to Sauk Center.
Because at one time, we offered rides from Long Prairie to Alec, and then we got into a little trouble there with the students at the school.
Yeah. Well, are you talking about the school here or the tech school up?
School here.
Yeah, because, at one time, we were really heavy in the school transportation when I first started. And talking with MnDOT, we came to the conclusion that we are not in a position to compete with the school bus service, and we don't want to either. But we have people call us because we would go to their door versus having their children walk a little ways or whatever it might be. We're door to door. So we made it, part of our policy is if you're eligible for the school bus service, you need to ride that. Unless we won't take you unless it's in the middle of the day, you have a doctor appointment or you have a different schedule than other people do or something like that. So we won't step on those toes. So that reduced how many, going back, 3-4 years ago now, how many, our ridership changed here, but it was also a lot. We had too many people on the bus, and it was kinda chaotic, you know, and so this has worked out well. We came here and met with you folks, we met with the superintendent and the principals and everybody at the schools, and the school bus, Aztec, I think it is, something like that, with
Who's
their.
suburban drivers?
Yeah, yeah, and we got all that sorted out, so, it's worked fine since. So now we have 4 buses generally, running out of Long Prairie on a daily basis. Sometimes in the summer, it's a little lighter, and we might have 3, and if we are, then, like today, for example, one of the drivers, Don, he took a bus from here and ran up to Alexandria, so, make that work.
Mr. Chair, if I could, just kind of, we have a unique situation in Todd County because Rainbow Rider goes the southern part of the county to basically Browerville.
Yeah.
And then from Browerville north, we have Friendly Rider out of Wadena
Right,
County.
right.
So it's a kind of a
Yes, you're right.
different,
It is, and so we have run into, so yeah, we'll run up with the STEP program and so forth up to Browerville every day. And we'll have 2 buses generally running that STEP program. We'll pick them up at the group homes in the morning and bring them to their destination, and then pick them up in the afternoon. Then the other 2 drivers will be driving locally generally. But Friendly Rider, if we do have somebody coming from the Wadena area, you know, we can meet them. And sometimes it's hard to arrange on a time, but we can meet them and they can swap onto our bus or vice versa too. But you're right, that's a great point.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. Tim, Lou?
No,
any-
thank you for the info, though. I didn't have any idea on the history of
good.
that, and that's very informational. I like that. I appreciate it.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that, thank you. Yeah. Oh. And if you don't use it, you know,
Right.
you wouldn't know some of this, you know, some of this stuff, you know, and, you know, my neighbor lady where I live, she's 90 years old, just came home from Florida, and her husband just passed away, and she's telling me she's getting her license back after a stroke, but it's not gonna happen, so I hooked her up with some rides on Rainbow Riders. That thing's awesome, you know, it's a good service, and it's not just, a lot of people think it is just for elderly or disabled, it's not, every morning, we're bringing people to work, we're bringing them to Walmart, we're bringing them to wherever, you know, their friend's house for coffee, it doesn't make any difference.
For the price, I mean, that's.
Well, the price is, yeah, I mean, believe me, we're not making money on it.
I know, but I mean.
That $2 ride would
there's no
probably be
one-
more like 14 if you're private sector.
Right, if you don't have a ride, I mean, there's no reason not to.
Yeah, I agree, so, it's good service, so.
So last year, we had some of those challenges that when we went for that ride, did any of them get resolved?
I'm trying to remember what they all were. I know one of the businesses in town, the gentleman is very nice and accommodating, and it always like works out for a few months. And then staff changes too, you know, and someone's gonna come out and meet the bus and bring them in through the back door, but then I'll hear from the driver, it didn't really happen, but it does work for a while, so they seem to. Other things we run into is like every town in small town USA, or any size town USA, is, you know, potholes and things like that, or going into the clinic and it's like driving through the Grand Canyon because this and that, and then you call the city and they say, well, that's a state highway, so that's MnDOT, and, you know, whatever it might be. And I understand all those things. Our maintenance on our buses has been crazy, just like anybody else, the gentlemen that were here before me, I'm sure. Well, it's, you know, we haven't been able to get new buses. And we're still waiting on buses for several years ago. We're waiting, as I joked about before, but it's fairly serious. You know, 14 or 15 buses since 19 and 20 that we've ordered, we haven't got, even though the prices have, doubled on those things. And so we are now, like the bus, if anybody hops on or the bus I took over here today is bus number 7. The newest bus we have is 52, so it's an older bus, but we weren't using it today, so I took that one. But our maintenance crew, you know, our budget for our maintenance is a lot higher than it normally would be, because normally we would get newer buses. We rotate them after X amount of miles.
Right.
So now what we task ourselves as doing is really rotating those buses. Let's say there's one route that puts on a lot more miles than another one, so we'll rotate those, so they try to even out the miles on all those buses. So,
Yeah, we're kind of dealing with the same thing in the sheriff's department.
I would imagine, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's,
And I can't imagine how many miles they put on, a ton of miles, I don't imagine. So,
Any other questions?
No, I'm good.
okay.
John, we'll,
Well, I thank you very much for having me. And if anybody wants to go over, I'm happy to drive you. If you're not interested, that's fine too. I'll leave it up to you
thanks
guys.
for coming. I'm gonna go out there. I haven't been out there in a while.
Sure.
So,
This is yours, I believe.
Turn, done, over.
Just know
Work session is
I'll
ended.
just stick it up here in this.
Recording over.